This is the greatest spectacle in racing.
Today we can shine.
Drivers, start your engines!
My name's Adam Kolesar. I'm the performance engineer for the 15 IndyCar with RLL, driven by Rahal. My job is to assist in some of the engineering decisions and race strategy, car setup, and all that kind of stuff. I work closely with people like TJ who work on the car, and Hayden who do damper stuff, and work with a race engineer and Graham himself to kind of work on everything from simulation stuff that we do, anything that has to do with race strategy and car setup is kind of what I focus on.
TJ Thompson. I'm a front end mechanic for Rahal, and I also am a front tire changer when we go over the wall on race day. So I do all the front suspension, driver fit stuff, anything that Graham needs, comfort wise, and then tire changes on race day.
And I guess when we're under caution and everybody is coming into the pits, that's when, the wheelman, that's when the pressure's on, I guess.
Yeah, that's the big one. That's when you take an extra look and make sure nobody's crashing down pit road, first of all. But you kind of got to just get in the zone and be in the same zone every time you do a pit stop, whether it's everybody coming down or just yourself. So you would think it puts a lot of pressure on, but you try to keep it to a minimum. And we had a really good day at the 500 where pretty much every pit stop we came down, it was under caution. It was everyone coming in, and we gained, I think, 6 spots on pit road that day. So you definitely have good ones and you have bad ones, but you try to maximize it, especially under caution, because you can gain a lot of spots in that brief amount of time.
Definitely makes my life a lot easier when we could don't have to worry about losing spots in pit lane. You could potentially gain them whenever we come in pit lane as far as strategy calls. So that's definitely I hope they can keep doing that the rest of the season.
And I take it you guys must practice that like crazy.
Yeah, pretty much at least twice a week. We've got a pit stop car that's electronic, and so we can do live run-ins. And it's 4 stops a day pretty much, and twice a week. And we got a pit stop coach that keeps us up to date. We do video and look over what we can do to get better, and the whole 9 yards. It's become super serious in the pits.
So who's the worst at hitting their marks?
With our 2 drivers, it's Graham by a long shot. Takuma's pretty spot on. Graham,
We'll cut that bit. He'll never know.
Pretty much always count on him being long. So at least he's consistently off the marks.
Then I'm Hayden Sharretts. I'm the damper technician for RLL, working with 15 and 30 car, and 45 if we run the 3rd car. Build, service dampers that go on all the cars, travel to testing, and work on some development stuff as well.
Hayden, I've got a few guys that would love to pick your brains about dampers and histograms and things like that, I'm afraid to say.
Oh, God.
So they're studying the data at the minute, and I'm sure they're all self-taught, so they're probably just setting it all up completely wrong.
Right. Well, that was one of the interesting things that we found between kind of the iRacing side and the real side is a lot of times the fast setup isn't very realistic at all, but sometimes you got to cheat the system a little bit.
Well, you just asked one of my questions that I put down there as well, was what did, when you were doing the Indy series, what were the differences you noticed sort of in terms of the data you were pulling out compared to real life?
So really, the data that we were using with VRS was definitely, like I said, we were using VRS and Motec a little bit. But the data we were looking at, because it was a fixed setup, was a lot of very small, especially at the speedway, was very small driving line, turn-in points, and stuff like that, because we were talking about hundredths of a second for qualifying laps and stuff. So that kind of stuff was very, very similar in a sense as to what you do with the car has a similar result. Some of the setup stuff is different, but we weren't necessarily messing around with that stuff. So the kind of techniques that you can use and the way you look at the data to try and find places to improve is very, very simple.
So were the guys kind of like, were they studying each other's data?
Exactly. Yes. So we had VRS set up with all the guys, Zach included. Zach Campbell was helping us out a bunch, who had a lot of experience, obviously, and Brandon Trano, who are both really fast in the IndyCar. And so once we brought them on, and the drivers had somebody to compare to, it kind of lit a fire under the drivers, and you saw a lot more interest going into trying to look at the data, because when you have somebody that's a sim racer and you have a real racer that is a couple hundred slower, they start to focus on the data, and they found out where to make a difference. And honestly, they picked it up really, really fast. So big thanks to you guys for helping us out with that. It was a big help, and it was a lot of fun.
A very special day on the American sports calendar. Someone's about to make a memorable moment that will last a lifetime.
I mean, just to put it in perspective, Indy is something we kind of focus on all the time, even it's kind of in the background through the season at the other races. I mean, a couple days after the 500 finished, me and the other engineers are starting to look into different development ideas and what we need to work on, what we are lacking, where we think we can make up some ground, where we think we had an advantage, and what we need to do to keep that advantage, and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's definitely rewarding, and honestly, it makes you work even a little bit harder to defend it the next time. Yeah, Indy's definitely special. I mean, in the sim and in real life, it's obviously extremely fast, but it's so finicky, such small margins to find time, and you could have a perfect setup, and just like in real life, the track temp will go up 5 degrees, and then all of a sudden you're lost. So it's same thing, and it's all about making sure you have all your bases covered. But Indy's definitely a big deal for us.
That's quite interesting to hear, actually, because I was always a firm believer, like with iRacing, the temperature that we have, temperature has a massive impact on our lap time and our grip level. And I honestly thought it was just overkill, like massively overkill. So, in a 5 degree track temp, how severe does that affect you guys? Are they basically coming in screaming understeer and I'm going to hit the wall and things like that, or?
So 5 or 10 degrees Fahrenheit would be enough for us there would be a definite change in the way that the car is handling, for sure. That there'd be a loss of grip, no doubt. The driver would be able to notice that. The driver, for instance, they'll come in and say, has the track temperature come down? And you look at the track temperature and it's only come down 3 or 4 degrees, but they know that, they felt that. So yeah, track temperature is massive. And it has to do, just how the tires work, how the rubber on the track, the actual track surface works, and the temperature of the air that's close to the ground also. So there's a bunch of different things that are affected there. But yeah, it's track temperature is probably the biggest variable.
So I'm guessing like shadows and everything all make a big difference to you guys as well. Yeah. So the sun moves around for the race. Are you constantly chasing the balance throughout the race?
Absolutely. The drivers are always, we have the same tools that they have in iRacing, your weight jacker and your front and rear anti-roll bar, and some tire pressure and wing adjustments, obviously, during pit stops. So yeah, the balance changes throughout the whole race, not only because you're in a lot more traffic at the beginning and the cars get spread out. The balance changes through the run as the tires wear, as the fuel load burns off, and also depending on the weather conditions, right? If it goes overcast, say, you're going to have to figure out what the car needs and probably make some tire pressure adjustments in the pits and talk to the driver about what he needs to make adjustments to the car. But a lot of the times the drivers will be making adjustments from one end of the track to the other, depending on how the balance is. That is very common. Weight jacker changes in the short chutes for 3 and 4 is different, or 1 and 2 is different. And wind has a big deal to play with that as well, because you could have wind on the nose, which would be pointing at the car and have kind of a little bit of oversteer. And then the other side of the track, you're going to have the wind pushing, and it's going to have so it can go back and forth between just the ends of the track based on track conditions.
how do you sort of get involved in terms of preparing a car for a race weekend? In terms of like, is there simulator work that is done first? Do you use historical data? Like last year's setup sheets and things like that?
It's a bit of everything, of all those things. We have simulator work that we'll use to kind of determine what we're going to want at the track. Depending on how historically we've been at a track, we'll look at historical data as well. Usually we'll carry a set of next year's dampers to every event just to have a standard of, okay, we know how this works. And then we also have some in-house development that we do on hydraulic rigs, and we can work on our own dampers and kind of fine-tune things. And we'll have those built as well to put on the car and give them a try. So there's a lot that goes into it. We have all sorts of different varieties of things that we can do to kind of dial in how a car is going to feel. And then it's up to the driver to determine what they like the most. And a lot of times our drivers are split on who likes what, but that's why you bring a lot of different varieties.
Imagine a weekend where you're just chasing the balance, you just can't get that sweet spot, the drivers. That must be like, from an engineering crew, that must be the most frustrating one. They keep coming back in. It's just not right, guys. I'm still struggling in, 3 and 4, and you must be,
It's not right a lot more than it is right. So yeah, I mean that's the standard. As just like you would know from driving in the sim, once the car is good, you start to go a little bit faster and you find a new problem. So no one's ever going to come in and say, "Oh, that's perfect. Let's just stop." There's always a little bit more, and you're going to find something else once you start to go a little bit faster. But yeah, it definitely helps when we can roll off the truck and have a balance that the driver's happy with, because there's a lot of times when it can be a pretty difficult weekend and it's hard to play catch up, because if you're behind at the beginning of the practice session, everybody else is making progress already and you're still trying to get the car balance right. So preparation is definitely key, especially this year with the shorter practice sessions.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the tough things is the car just has to roll right off the truck and kind of be good, because we only get, about an hour now of practice before we have to go and qualify, whereas before you'd end up with about 2 hours or 2.5 hours to really test the car out. So the drivers are really going out there. We only have, as many options as we can put on the car, but you really run out of time more than anything. So you kind of have to find what you like and go with it, fine tune it, and then it's got to go out there and run the show.
I bet it makes you sick when I said that our guys get 16 hours of practice then, just to fine tune, thousands of laps. So.
Yeah, I don't know how many things we could possibly get through. If I don't even want to think about all the different options we would come up with, I wouldn't even say that out loud for the other engineers, because I'm sure the mechanics would probably lose their minds with all the options we would give them to put on the car to try and run.
I mean, what's the rest of the season looking like for you guys? We quietly confident, maybe get some more wins?
Yeah, I think we're very confident going into Indy Road Course. We had good performing cars there. We've done some more work. Hayden's kind of offsite right now, doing some damper work for us to try and find some more speed. Obviously doing some simulation work in the background all the time, and reviewing race strategy and stuff like that. So going to a place where we've had a strong car and we've run this season already is good, but you can't kind of rest on your laurels. We're definitely still trying to find some more speed. But I think the 2 tracks that are left, we definitely feel like we could be very competitive at both.
Any of you guys done any racing as well, be it sort of like, real racing or sim racing?
Yeah, so I grew up oval racing. I grew up in New England running go-karts, Legends cars, and then a little bit of dirt stuff in the midgets. And then recently I've done a little bit with Lucas Oil Racing School and then the USF 2000 series. So I've got a little taste of it. And then I've been doing iRacing since probably 2011. Again, starting mostly on the ovals and then kind of turning over to the road courses more recently.
Yeah, I've been on iRacing since it started, really. I was a big GPL Grand Prix Legends guy. It was chasing chasing the GPL rank back in the day. I started karting when I was about 10 and did that until I went to start working on IndyCars, working with IndyCar teams. But ever since then, I've been part of sim racing on and off. Usually a little bit more off during the season. I try to come back a little bit and play around with it a little bit more in the off season. But yeah, I've been doing it a long time, and it's definitely helped to be able to relate to the drivers a little bit. Obviously, it's not the same thing, but anything you could do to help communication, kind of try and understand the data a little bit more. If you can experience even something that's related to it slightly, like iRacing is, where it's actually what happens with car balance and what a car does in the beginning of the corner, in the middle of the corner. It definitely helps to relate to the driver that way. So I think sim racing, as far as that goes, is super useful.
I was going to say, I've been on for probably 6 years now on iRacing, and it definitely can help kind of understand how the car balance is, because when you have a driver come in and they say, oh, well, we want kind of a softer feel over certain corners, and you're like, oh, okay, well, if we're at Detroit, I kind of know how that track relates, and I can kind of go, all right, well, I know where he's coming from when he wants a softer car feel over there, so you can help you kind of think, all right, let's dial that back a little bit. So it gives you a different perspective for sure.
I mean, did you guys have fun during the Indy, the Indy Challenge when it was on there?
Yeah, it was very cool. We got to, with the pandemic and everything that was going on, the team was kind of separated in communication. From the engineering side, we still had a lot of projects that we were working on, but as far as kind of collaborative stuff and communicating together, there wasn't really much going on. So the iRacing kind of brought TJ, who had experience, who's a mechanic, and Hayden, who's a damper technician, and a couple other guys that have been helping us out. It kind of brought the whole team together, and we got together on Discord and during the practice sessions, and it was good for kind of communication stuff for the team. But it was also just a good time to keep fresh with everybody and keep that team atmosphere going. But it was fun as well.
I want to know if there was any any banter going on in the paddock with the other teams in terms of how you guys are doing it. You know?
Well, there was definitely some conversations going back and forth about how much engineering was being involved in in each. You would see people log on, then all of a sudden you see they have 5 spotters because there's 5 engineers that are logged on, and people have multiple iRacing accounts so they could watch multiple drivers at the same time, and you have people all over the country trying to digest the data and help out. So yeah, there was definitely a lot of competition as far as that goes, and I'm very thankful that they stayed with the fixed setups, because it would have turned into as competitive as all the teams are, we would have devoted far too much time into iRacing to try and beat everyone else.
I mean, you can come and knock on our door. We're Indy 500 winners as well.
That's exactly why we contacted you guys. Yeah, we said we need to work with the best, so we definitely got in touch with you guys, and obviously that helped. Graham was super competitive on iRacing, and obviously Takuma won the Indy 500 this year. So I'm not saying that's because of iRacing, but it definitely didn't hurt working with you guys.
I thought you were going to say it was because of us for a minute. You put in new ideas, new directions, new setup ideas. Yes.
I asked him on the podium if it was all the iRacing. He said, of course. So.
Bobby, Mike Lanigan, David Letterman. Oh, I can't thank enough for all the people.
God bless you, my friend. Thank you very much.